All right, go through your chronological career and away we go. Greg Lamp.
I grew up on a diversified crop and livestock farm in eastern South Dakota. And after high school, of course, decided to go to college and went all the way to Brookings, which was 8 miles. So I stayed at home, never lived in a dorm, and went for 2 years and could not decide what I wanted to do. And so finally I looked through the catalog and I thought, journalism, I'd like to talk. Maybe that's something I could do. So before you know it, I majored in it. And my first job out of college then was at a place called Miller Publishing in Minneapolis. And I kind of came upon that job sort of oddly, but when I graduated, I got a job as a bartender in Brookings at a hotel. And this guy was coming through and got stuck there because there was a blizzard. His name was George Ashfield. And before you know it, I was interviewing for a job in Minneapolis, and George was my first boss. It was just a great story. My car was stuck in a snowbank. The guy helped me shovel it out. And who knows what a good deed will do, and he gave me a good response by hiring me. And he was probably instrumental as a boss through my whole career. I loved that guy, and I was still surprised that he would even hire me. So I worked at Miller Publishing on a magazine called Feedlot Management for a couple of years. And then I ended up moving to Des Moines, Iowa, and worked on Successful Farming as a crops editor. So I worked there for a couple of years, and then I decided to go back to school and went back to SDSU to pick up a master's. Ended up back in Minneapolis and got a job working at Call McVoy Advertising. So I did part advertising, part public relations, and after about 3 years I became the Ag PR manager, which is the first time they'd had anybody in that position. And then Farm Journal came along and offered me a job. And I thought, boy, this is pretty hectic here at the ad agency. Maybe I should get back into journalism. So, and I did really enjoy the job, but I did kind of want to get back into kind of magazine journalism. And I got hired there to be sort of a swing editor on 3 livestock magazines, Hog, Beef, and Dairy Today. Plus I did work on Top Producer and Farm Journal. And after a while, I ended up as a features editor and the photo editor for those 3 livestock magazines. And that sort of unlocked a door for me. I was really interested in photography, and I guess that's more my passion in journalism, is the photo end of it. And so I did that for several years, and then ended up at Beef Magazine. I have quite a path here. And I worked there for about 5 years with another really good boss, Joe Roybal, a longtime friend of mine too. And then moved over and became editor of Corn and Soybean Digest. And that was a really good period in time. But here I'd gone from writing about beef cattle for a big chunk of my career, and now I'm writing about crops. And then I ended up my career at CHS, which is the largest co-op in the United States. And I was their editor-in-chief of their corporate magazine, and learned how to do corporate journalism, which is a bit different. So that's sort of the path that I took over all those years.
And so what are you doing today?
Today I still do some freelancing. Do I start over?
Today, that was great.
Today I still do some freelancing for 2 or 3 different magazines, a little bit of work occasionally for CHS, but I've tried to sort of focus a bit more on photography and video work, and it's been real enjoyable. Do what I want to do.
Long career in nonprofit work in terms of your volunteer work with the American Ag Editors Association. So talk about your experiences there.
Okay, so throughout this, my career in journalism, right from the very beginning, I had joined AAEA, and I have been a member, I think, for my entire career. I can't remember a time when I wasn't. I did go to a lot of meetings. I wouldn't say I've been to every single one, but I've been to a majority of them, and have really enjoyed, the cliche networking thing. But gosh, when you work on so many different publications, you become friends with a whole different group of people, and they all gather together at what now is the Ag Media Summit, and it's been just fun to see all those people.
So talk about your leadership role. I know you served as president of AAEA. Any memories, any anecdotes about your leadership?
Probably a real highlight for me with AAEA has been being involved in committees. And I can't tell you enough about how important that is, and would encourage everybody to do that at some point if you could. And I have been on several committees, and that's really where you kind of learn how the organization works, and you really get to work with a team of people that you might not normally work with because they're working in different places. Probably a highlight of all of that was in 2009. We had hosted the International Federation of Ag Journalists in Fort Worth, and I was co-chair of that, and that was a wonderful experience. It seemed like a big job. It took a lot of time, but there was just a wonderful group of people that were just digging in. They were just kind of thrilled to be part of this whole thing because it had never been done before. And that opened the doors for me for the International Federation of Ag Journalists whole network. I have gone to several of the meetings around the world. If you're not familiar with IFAJ, they hold, it's over 50 different countries that host a meeting somewhere in the world, and it's professional development and farm tours, and you can get stories and stuff out of it. But those people have become my friends. There are lots of places in the world that I could travel now and have places to stay, and people that say, hey, come over anyway, come over anytime. It's really been a terrific thing. And I think our meeting that we had in 2009 was very successful. And then later again in 2019, 10 years later, that same meeting was held in Minneapolis, and I still live in the Minneapolis area, so I got involved again. And in fact, Karen McMahon and I both arranged all the farm tours for the IFAJ joint AMS meeting, which was really a lot of fun.
Awesome. So let's ask you about mentors. And as you look over your career, people that influenced you, and maybe they're your peers, but who are some of those people?
I just don't think I have somebody like that.
You did say George Ashe.
I did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But beyond him, I didn't have a John Burns kind of guy. Mm-hmm. That, I mean, for you.
Yeah.
I just don't know what
Yeah.
I would say about that.
Not saying you have to. So just want to make sure.
Maybe I could say, not mentors, but I could mention something about photographers, since I sort of got a passion for that.
Okay, so why don't we frame this as people that were influential
Okay.
for you in your career. Let's do it that way.
I think I've had a lot of people that have been influential to me throughout my career, but I think if I had to sort of pinpoint a few of them, it would be anybody that was really involved in photography. I got to be kind of close friends with several of the photographers of the year, and just learned immensely from them by just rubbing shoulders with them and just talking to them. How did you get that photo? I get excited about photography yet, and I have to admit it would be hard to name just one or two because there are so many of them that I have watched. And then when I go to an Ag Media Summit, I never miss a photo session. I learn something every time I go because there are such capable people that are telling us how they shoot their photos.
Awesome. So how interesting that Kelly Schwalbe would be calling you while we're doing this interview. So one more question, and that's has to do with advice for young people entering the business or people that are fully into the ag communications business. What advice can you partake to them?
I think some advice that I might give people, if you would allow me, is to just be be interested in whatever you're writing about or whatever you're communicating about. I remember at one point I even had to write stories about irrigation systems and how to grow potatoes, and actually found it fascinating. Here I thought I'd write just about beef cattle or corn and soybeans my whole life, and several times I've done things that are just really different, and I've found that kind of keeps me energized. And I would hope that you might find the same thing, that if you get in a track, don't worry about getting off track once in a while. You never know how that could influence you later. And going to Ag Media Summit is kind of a highlight, and I am honored to be able to go again and be named a Lifetime Achievement winner with one of my good friends, Karen McMahon, college buddies. So this means a lot to me too, to have this happen today. Thank you.
All right, so that was the last thing I was going to do. If there was a 15-second thing you wanted to say thanks to AEA or AC or whatever you wanted to do to get either to close your remarks or to begin your remarks, so I make sure I've got that at least on camera.
Okay.
So
A big shout out of thanks to AAEA and ACN for honoring me with this award. Means a ton to me. I feel like I've been so involved with it for so many years, and what a way to kind of wind things up here at the end. So thank you very much.
perfect.
Wow.